Welcome to the TCC Library's online tutorials. In this tutorial, we will learn how to search the APA PyscArticles database and how to identify different article types. PyscArticles can be found through the A to Z databases page on the library website. Depending on your class, it may also be on the Articles and Databases page of your research guide, available both on the library website under Research Guides and in Canvas under Library Research Guides in your course shell. Here is the advanced search page of the PyscArticles database. We're going to see what happens when we do a basic search for the term depression. You can see that we're getting a lot of results, way more than I would actually want to look through. You can also see that the publication date goes back to 1894. To make the search more manageable, we want to use some database limiters. We can do this by hitting the back arrow and going back to the advanced search page. Scroll down to limit your results. Select the full text checkbox to make sure you can read the full text of all articles in the results. Otherwise, you may encounter some you need to request through interlibrary loan. For most psychology topics, you will get more relevant results by limiting to the last 5 or 10 years. Always refer to your assignment instructions to see if you need to input a more specific date range. If you are required to use scholarly, peer-reviewed, or academic journal articles, select this checkbox. It's also a good idea to exclude book reviews unless you are looking for a book to read. Beneath that, you can see some other limiters such as age groups, population group, and methodology. You can select one age group, population group, and/or methodology on this page, but the search results page will actually let you select more than one at a time. So now I will hit search so we can see what that looks like. On the next page, you can see that I've cut my search results for depression in half by limiting to full text, the last 10 years, including scholarly journals and excluding book reviews. However, this is still more than I want to look through. If we scroll down, we can see some additional limiters that match up to what we saw on the advanced search page. Under language, we can select English to exclude the few that are in French. You can also limit by age, gender, or population. See all options for a particular section by going to Show More. You can now select multiple boxes, say if you are interested in both school-age and adolescent children. If you need a particular article type, such as an original research article, you can limit your results by using the methodology section. We'll return to this later in the video. Another way to adjust your search results is to look at the subject terms beneath the article. We can see that the search term depression is pulling up the subject term major depression, and if you scroll down, it's also pulling up depression emotion. What's going on here? We can see the difference by going up to the very top of the page, right-clicking APA Thesaurus of Psychological Index Terms, and opening it in a new tab. We can see that PyscArticles differentiates between depression as an emotion and depression as a condition. By selecting a term, we can see how it's defined, when it was introduced, and some related terms. What this all tells me is that when I go back to my search in PyscArticles, I want to use the term major depression. Adding quotation marks allows me to search for these exact words in this order. We can see this eliminates about 2,000 results. Say what I'm really interested in is the comorbidity of depression and another condition, such as anxiety, which has its own subject term here. We can add this in the second search field after the word and. This eliminates about another 2,000 results. If I want to, I can expand these results by adding another search term. Say I'm also interested in the comorbidity of depression and PTSD, so I go back to the thesaurus to find the best way to search for this in PyscArticles. It turns out the database specifically uses the term post-traumatic stress disorder, so I'll add that to my search. Now I am searching for major depression and anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder. Again, adding the quotation marks looks for these words in this order. I do want to add post-traumatic stress disorder here, instead of using the third drop-down to select or, because I would then be getting results for post-traumatic stress disorder that have nothing to do with depression. This search gives me results for depression either in combination with anxiety or in combination with post-traumatic stress disorder. Let's take a look at an article. I'm going to select this one because it has both HTML and PDF full text, and so you can see what a meta-analysis looks like. First, if you find an article in any of TCC's databases that offers both HTML and PDF, you always want to select the PDF. You can see what the HTML looks like by scrolling down. This is the plain text of the article. This particular article does include charts and graphs in the HTML, but many do not. If we select the PDF, we can see that this is in a different format. Unlike the HTML, you can download the PDF and read it without needing to come back to the database. You can also see page numbers, which you need for all in-text citations in MLA and for direct quotes in APA. Refer to your assignment instructions to see which citation style you are required to use. This article tells us that it's a meta-analysis right in the title, but not all articles do. To check an article's methodology, look for the methods section. This should be its own bolded heading. In this article, we can see that the methods involved a systematic literature search in which databases were used. This means that the authors examined other published articles to draw their conclusions rather than conducting their own original research study. This is a peer-reviewed journal article, but it is not an original research article. Let's try another article. This one does not tell you what type of article it is in the title, so we need to open the PDF and look at the methods section to see what methodology it uses. We can read here that the authors collected their data from a previously collected dataset, in this case from a national survey. This is also a peer-reviewed journal article, but since the authors did not collect the data themselves, it is not an original research article. If you do need to find an original research article, you can limit your results using the methodology section on the search results page. Some instructors may require you to find an article that presents original research. First, it's helpful to know what is absolutely not original research. Literature reviews, meta-analyses, systematic reviews, retrospective studies, and metasyntheses do not represent original research. These articles summarize and analyze articles written or data compiled by other people rather than the authors of the article conducting their own study and collecting their own data. All empirical studies should represent original research, but sometimes one of those other article types will show up in the results. This is a machine-generated list, so it is not always perfect, and you should know how to evaluate and identify articles on your own by checking the article's methods section. You can also use a methodology section to limit to a type of study that interests you, such as interview or clinical trial. Limiting to these methodologies takes me down to around 200 results. Let's take a look at one of the results and check the methods section in the article. Here, it describes how participants were recruited and how a randomized controlled trial was conducted. Although this article uses the passive voice, such as participants were recruited instead of the active we recruited participants, we know that the authors of the article were the ones who conducted the study because they do not cite any other source for this information. If there is no citation for a particular piece of information, we assume it came from the authors. This is both a peer-reviewed journal article and an original research article. In particular, this article is experimental research because a randomized controlled trial involves sorting participants into an experimental group that receives an intervention and a control group that does not receive the intervention. Here's one more article that we will look at to see a different type of study design. If we scroll down to the methods section, it describes an interview or survey design. This differs from the experimental study we looked at last because there is no control group, experimental group, or intervention. However, a survey design is still original research because the authors designed and conducted their own study and collected data from the participants themselves. This article is both a peer-reviewed journal article and an original research article. Always check with your instructor to double-check the requirements of your assignment and determine which article types you're allowed to use. Some instructors may have additional requirements, such as only accepting articles within a certain publication date range or concerning a particular population or subject. To save and cite the article, use the tools on the right-hand side of the article record. Use the permalink to come back to this page. The link up in the toolbar is temporary and does not work. The Cite button auto-generates a citation. Always double-check auto-generated citations against TCC or official resources to make sure they're formatted correctly before including them in a class assignment. The email tool combines these two features. You can select a citation format in the last drop-down list and send yourself a copy of the article and its citation directly to your email. If you need more help using PyscArticles, learning how to cite correctly, or would like more information about any other library resources and services, please contact a TCC librarian.